Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Green Party Series. I am your host, David Rich, and with my lovely, wonderful co-host.
That's me, Kelvin Tomashko.
Okay.
Yep.
And our, if you will, producer, Anna. Anna, how are you?
Very good. We actually have Allan to join us today, too.
Oh, and Allan Axelrod is our guest for this evening. We also have a lot to talk about, so I hope everybody had a great week. Hey, dude. How are you? Allan, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It looks like my connection's not as strong as I thought it was. Can you hear me?
We can definitely hear you. Yeah, we can see you, but there's a pause on the video, but that's okay. Hearing is the most important. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about tonight. We want to get some insight and some background on Allan. And we want to talk about Earth Day. We want to talk about Mayday. We want to talk about organizing. So we got a full hour of stuff to discuss. So why don't we start with our guest, because I know he's probably very busy doing things, and get on the way with that. So Allan, what's up? Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and your activity within the Green Party?
Oh, well, my name is Anna Schiefelbein. I've been an activist for over 20 years. I was a Democrat for 12 years and a Green Party member for about 2 years now. And I am now a state organizer for the Illinois Green Party and a member of the DuPage County Green Party.
Calvin, you want to?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a newer member to the Illinois Green Party, and I am a big fan of the working class, labor efforts, as well as democracy in general.
All right, well said. As am I. I am David Rich. I'm a member since November, just right after the election last year, actually. Came from the other third party Libertarian Party to this one. Long story. I could tell you some other time. But very happy to be here. I've had a great time. I hit the ground running. I've been very open arms from people like Anna and other people. So it's been really great. I'm also the host of Reality Radio on 98.3 FM, WRLR, Voice of Lake County, airs Tuesdays, 5 to 7 p.m. So anybody out there who's listening and wants to be on the radio, I can make you famous. Okay, so Allan, why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself?
Oh, is he logging on again for us?
I don't know. Do we lose him? I know he's out somewhere. He said he might have some difficulties with connections. All right. Well, let us again. Okay. So, Anna, why don't you start us off with talking about? Why don't you give us a summary of the convention on Saturday?
Oh yeah. So we had the Illinois Green Party Spring Convention last Saturday, April 17th, and we started out with our business meeting. So we were able to elect some Illinois Green Party officers, and then after that we had a police reform and community workshop, and so that was really great. We went.
How did that go? Because I missed that. How was that?
Good. I made the team work, so that was really good.
Okay, good.
We have these organizing tools, and so we are on Action Network, and so we are able to offer our organizing members petitions, letter campaigns, fundraisers, events, websites, email addresses. And so we already have a lot of the built-in costs already done. And so we are able to offer that to our organizing members. Like Allan has been fabulous at coalition building and making some waves and helping people through the No Amarin Shutoffs campaign. And he's also helping out with evictions as well. Can you hear us, Allan?
It's a little spotty. I think that's more due to my cell phone being old than to the cell phone signal. Thank you, Forced Obsolescence. But yeah, we just actually passed an initiative unanimously in Bloomington on utility shutoffs and evictions just this evening. That's why I'm, talking to you from my car at the moment. The resolution called for the support for a House bill in Illinois called 2877, the COVID Emergency Rental Assistance Act. It provides for election records into utility payments as well to help people catch up on their rent and utility debt. So that's one of the core features that we need in order to have a safe ride out through this pandemic in Illinois. what's happening to states like water shutoffs, just pounding their. I think it's an exponential growth at this point in Michigan with their COVID cases now, I think, in the top 2, if not the top 1 state for the new COVID cases. So
Yeah.
Illinois is about to get hit, and we're trying desperately to get the governor to issue a moratorium on utility shutoffs. And this is stuff that's being passed through conservative bodies as well as liberal bodies when it comes to these resolutions. These are not, any sort of outrageous demands. These are very understandable and common sense demands that we're fighting for. So we will see how it goes, but we have, as you mentioned, a coalition of 51 member organizations, of which the Illinois Green Party and the Sangamon Green Party are members. And we're a $0 coalition, yet we've won 4 statewide moratoria in the state of Illinois. So how much money do you really need in politics?
That's a very interesting point. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to Molly May Brady, who's watching. Hello, Molly. To explain to people what a moratorium is. I mean, obviously, it's we've heard it in other case contexts before. It means to put a pause on something. But how did it go through the process of getting one in this case? Say?
Yeah. So moratorium is just where you are prohibiting something. So a moratorium on utility shutoffs is where you cannot be disconnected for non-payment in Illinois. That's what it meant when we had a moratorium on utility shutoffs. Now that moratorium has lifted, and we confirmed with employees from Ameren, Illinois, that last week they resumed utility shutoffs. Last time this happened, it took 2 weeks for that impact to be reflected on the COVID caseload, and it was dramatic. So I think nearly a dozen states had their moratoria on utility shutoffs expire at the end of March, inclusive of Pennsylvania and Michigan, while states like New York have extended their utility shutoffs moratorium. And so what we need to understand is that while they may be predisposed to thinking that people need to pay their bills and should pick themselves up by their bootstraps, it's still not safe. So we actually need people to follow safety protocols first and foremost and deal with the economic aspects later. And this is something that the Trump administration agreed with. They money through the Federal Appropriations Act of 2021, as well as the CARES Act, to actually allow states to relieve rent and utility debt, which is how we are appropriating those funds in Illinois. So this is something that, even as out of touch and oppressive a regime as the Trump administration, understood that at least they should make the money available. This was Mitch McConnell's Senate that passed this, right?
Wow.
That's the gravity of the situation, to where this is common sense. Back in 2007, during the end of the Bush administration, the Congressional Research Service even published an analysis called Pandemic Influenza, an analysis of state preparedness and response plans. And they didn't use the word moratorium, but they, in Table 8, said that one of the measures that they were be expected in a pandemic is continuation of public utility services. So this is something that is not even just a leftist demand. This is a demand for folks who are driven by data and also want to protect people. Like, I don't know how else to explain it other than how outrageous is it that the Trump administration understood that these funds should be appropriated, yet the Pritzker governorship is not using every tool in their disposal like he claimed in October of 2020 that he was. He actually has the ability to enact a moratorium via executive order, and he has not done so. He was even trying to claim that he couldn't, and he was fact-checked by a Fox ABC affiliate, right? Like, this is something that is so inane that a local multimedia journalist, where they're not necessarily known, like, multimedia journalists are not the epitome of rigorous, fact-based journalism. They are, they do their best, but they have quite a production cycle, and they fact-checked him. That's how severe this is.
Did he get called out in public? Like, hey, by the way, you're wrong, or you lied, or whatever? Did he have a response to saying something that wasn't true?
No, he had no response to it. The press at the time didn't know the information. They did some research and then they published a report showing that he lied.
Okay.
We, with the No Ameren Shutoffs campaign, had a video release as part of a collaborative press release where we, leaned really hard into that aspect of the struggle, that he has the power and has lied about his ability to use it and was fact checked by media. And within a week of that collaborative press release going out, we stopped utility shutoffs in the state of Illinois, or at least we stopped power shutoffs, which are the ones that go much faster. Like, this is all very not intuitive, but evictions and water shutoffs happen at a slower rate than power shutoffs. So while we didn't get a complete victory, we stopped the biggest portion of the harm. And to kind of characterize that, in The Intercept, they had published some national law representative from a nonprofit organization where they said that, utility shutoffs are a way of dehousing people without an eviction. And he went on to call it pernicious and subtle. And that's exactly right. So, yeah, like, that's pretty much the situation where we called out the governor, and the day after our video went live, Commonwealth Edison stopped utility shutoffs as disclosed in their December filings for the month of November's utility shutoffs. And then 8 days after that was when Ameren, Illinois stopped utility shutoffs. And in between, I was threatened by a member of the state board of our Illinois Revolution over that video, trying to get me to retract it. And I told them to bring it, and eventually they left the coalition. But we have since recruited the additional organizations supplanting the hole that they left. So, and we're still passing resolutions across the state. So what's that say?
That says you're doing a great job.
And it's rather unfortunate, because there needs to be organizations that actually prioritize human rights over political calculus. You need to have a line somewhere. And it's really dangerous organizing with folks who are just not willing to have that clear line, unless if it is just for them. And that's the experience that we've had, where there are some organizations that have their fights. That's totally okay. But then there are other organizations that have leaked information and tried to intimidate us from our own ranks. So the fact that we've been able to win 4 utility shutoff moratoria and pass resolutions in multiple bodies of government since then just goes to show that it's people power, not branding, that actually pushes forward.
So anyway.
Yeah, he was on a roll.
He was on a roll.
Well, hopefully we'll get him back in a second here. That's all really interesting, and I want to ask him more about the process of going about it. I mean, how 51 people can affect an entire state. That's pretty impressive.
Well, it's 51 organizations.
Well, I thought you said 51 people, but 51 organizations.
Called 51 groups. Some, I think they're all groups. So it's 51 groups. Oh, he's back. Hold on.
Yay.
So we're like on the edge of our seats here.
Welcome back. All right. So I wanted to, like, how does the process go that you get 51 organizations together? Like, do you have to sign, like, are you presenting it to the court? Are you presenting it to a lawyer who takes it to the court? How does the process go? And who at the end of the day decided, okay, you know what, you can't shut these people's power off? A judge or?
So I'm not sure that I got your entire question. It sounded like you were asking me how we got to 51 member organizations, what it looked like for them to join, and then how we learned that the governor has the ability to stop utility shutoffs.
We'll start there.
Okay. Well, we had run a congressional campaign through a coalition in 20.
Oh,
yeah. Being mobile is not good with
that's
this.
too bad.
No.
Okay. When he gets back on, Calvin, do you have any questions for him?
I'm trying to take some notes here, think of some good questions. I'm wondering, the CDC extended the rent moratorium to, I believe, July. And businesses, or not businesses, renters, people out there trying to make ends meet, they've been worrying each time that rent moratorium is coming to its close, because the rent moratorium, to my understanding, didn't cancel rent, and it didn't just subsidize rent for that period of time. That rent is still back owed. Just at the end of the moratorium, they'll have to pay that plus rent for the coming month.
Oh,
and it's been extremely stressful on the working class each time that inches closer and closer, and now they can rest easy for a little bit in that regard because we have until July. But I'm horrified to hear, but I can see it happening where the owners are using utilities as a way to kick people out. Just hate hearing about it. In detail.
It's
but on the other side of that, if you're a landlord and that's your income, you're also, in a struggle too, because that's your money as well. So I think that's like an unfunded regulation, and I think that could have been corrected, and still could be corrected as well.
Well, you correct it by getting rid of landlords.
No.
Yeah, I have no sympathy for landlords, but yeah, if you wanted to approach it intelligently as a legislator, you would at least subsidize like a portion of rent, so that
it's fair.
There wouldn't be this cliff that's always looming that we always keep pushing further.
Right. Yes.
Alan's back. What's up, buddy? All right, so where do we leave off?
I think he's frozen.
You're frozen?
He's like winking.
We want to try no video, Alan. If you can hear me, let's turn off video and just focus on your audio. Maybe we'll keep you for longer.
Yeah, maybe. It fundamentally has to do with the low processing power of my iPhone, so take that for what you will. I think the place where we had left off was you were asking how we got started with the coalition. Was that correct?
Sure.
Okay. He's gone.
So that didn't work.
This is, I'm not sure if I will let him back in just because it's so intermittent. So
we'll have to have him back on when he's like back at home with his full gear right in front of him and something. So I definitely want to hear more about this for sure. But sorry, Alan. Sorry, viewers. Technical difficulties. So okay. Go ahead, Calvin. You were talking about landlords and.
I just think if you're going to play the kind of social democracy angle, handle welfare, treat it like an emergency, and if you want to make landlords happy as a legislator, you would supplement part of that. You would create a fund, and you would at least cover a percentage of it. I think so many other countries did something similar to this. They also covered back pay, or if employees were on what's that when they're furloughed. So furloughed pay was covered by a portion of a percent. We just didn't see that from the representatives that we have, and it's sad to hear that at the state level we're dealing with the same thing, just on a smaller scale. They're not finding ways to make it so that the working class isn't the one hit. Because, okay, if we're sympathizing with the landlord and we're seeing what they're doing, what's their choice of action. Their choice of action is to squeeze out tenants with shutting off like life necessities and utilities. That's horrendous. So that can't be the answer that we settle on. And I wanted to ask Allan, like, what kinds of direct action are we seeing? Like, I want to set up a like negative parade down Pritzker's Main Street, wherever Pritzker lives. I want to set up around his office and chant over and over again, so loud that it echoes off the buildings around us, that we're upset with this. This is unacceptable for the governing bodies to be derelict of their duties and create programs that will help us through, like, you know, maybe we're in the tail ends of it, but help us through the effects of this pandemic. There's my rant. There it is.
No, it's good. No,
and a lot bubbling up there.
That's okay. Yeah, no. And then Molly Mae Brady is saying here, being a landlord is not a job, it's an investment, which is true. Because usually what happens is you buy an apartment building, a complex, whatever, and you hire a management firm to manage it for you. So you just kind of sit back and collect money. So yeah,
well, everybody is different, and there are landlords who
there are some that with smaller units.
It is a job for them, or it's free rent for them, or it's their daily life, you know. So everybody's situation is unique. But I don't like how people are just being squeezed out of money, you know, no matter which side it is on, you're still being squeezed out of money. And I think that that our government didn't leave us high and dry. And I remember when right before the election, Congress came out and said, "Oh no, we're not even going to talk about $600 now." It's like all the people wanted, they wanted more, but you were going to give the people $600, and just a few days before the election, you're not even going to talk about it. Yet you can confirm Amy Barrett right through. And it's just it's like the left hand is not talking to the right hand.
That's for sure.
Making the American people a priority. They're just not. If that was true, we would see Medicare for all come in. If that was true, we would see more prevention rather than, oh, maybe we'll give them some kind of policy, gradual policy in the next 5 years and just see how it goes. So that's also like the climate. Biden's coming out with his plan. And we're still dissecting it, but the pieces that we do know, we're not happy with that. Our real Green New Deal does perform the job. It does bring us to 100% renewable energy by 2030. And we don't have time for gradual policy. We just don't. David, I know you know all the numbers on that. But I wanted to talk about also the organizing that the Green Party is doing. For the Illinois Green Party, we have the new organizing tool, and then we also have a project management software that we use, and we can include our coalition members in there. And so it's not just for Green Party members, it's also for a coalition party. And so like for Allan, we're going to set him up with his own hub, and he's free to include his coalition member people in that hub where we can communicate, we can schedule, we can put docs and files in, we can talk about policy, we can talk about jokes, we can talk about serious stuff. So it's a whole culture of communications among that coalition. And we are able to provide that to community groups who need that help. Because when people start off, they start off in isolation. Nobody's listening to them. They don't know how to get to that point where they can pass a resolution at City Hall. And what we can do is we can go step by step of how to build a community group, how to identify problems, how to make solutions on that local level. We don't want to come in and say, this is exactly what you should do, A, B, C, and D. No, this is the local community group. You know your group, your area best. You know your problems the best. You know the people who can solve them the best, who can come to the table and bring good ideas and work together in a civil manner, and hopefully be able to produce some solutions that you can also just get on paper and bring that to your city people, and make that effective change. I think what Allan's group is so successful because it is people powered. And the Green Party, our vote to money value cost is so efficient. It's way more efficient. We just don't do 6 mailers a day 30 days before the election. We're out working all the time. April 6th was just the last consolidated election. Who's out there working for water shutoffs? Allan, one of our other Green Party members, and we're working towards that. Calvin, you're ready. I'm ready. And so, okay, so I did want to talk about the Earth Day to Mayday events. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to be on here today, besides seeing you guys.
Please, yeah, let's hear about it.
Yeah, let me pull that up here, because there's quite a few. And I love how this is on Monday, and so like whatever we have coming up in the week, we can
Earth Day is or May Day is?
I'm sorry, what?
Which one's on Monday?
No, this is
the show is on Monday. I thought you meant welcome.
Your show on Monday. No,
it's not Thursday. Might as well be. Okay, I thought you meant Earth Day or May Day.
Yeah, well, the Greens are doing an Earth Day to Mayday. So we have a whole week of activities, lots of learning, and then we're gonna end up with Mayday. I'll be stay tuned for that. So we're gonna be talking.
Which, by the way, and Calvin and I talked about this on my show a couple weeks ago. Mayday, if anybody doesn't recognize it as what it really is the actual International Labor Day. It's when the Calvin, you want to explain it real quick before we get to the description of the Green Party? Give us the history of Mayday.
Yeah. Okay. Quick history of Mayday. So Mayday is actually Labor Day. No, your calendar isn't like lying to you. You haven't been looking at the mirage this whole time. No, it's actually Labor Day because that was the dates of something really significant in labor history, and that was a general strike and then the Haymarket massacres and riots. There was a kangaroo court. Anarchists were put to death, literally hung, and sentenced to jail. And then later on, a governor of Illinois recognized it as a kangaroo court and then released those who were still alive. And
why were they charged in the first place? What was their crime?
They were supposedly doing oh gosh, what was their kangaroo court crime? I just kind of remember it as like, there
was a bomb thrown into the crowd.
Yes, there was an incident of a bomb was thrown into a crowd. There's no one who knows who did it.
Absolutely impossible to track who did it, and yet they sort of picked 6 to 8 anarchists. Said they must have done it because they're anarchists, and they hung.
Yeah, and they were causing massive unrest in the citizenry and leading to like possible anti-United States thoughts and because.
Can I say something real quick about the definition of anarchism? Anarchism does not mean chaos. Anarchism means decentralized socio-political economic powers. That's what it means. Like A means no archy. So think of like no hierarchy. It means all people are equal and they live in the community that they set up on themselves, and everybody participates. It's very much a direct democracy. There's no federal government, and that's where the no government, the anti-government thing comes from. It does not mean chaos. It's just people think that, if you don't have government, it's a state of chaos. That is not necessarily the case. Go ahead.
Yep. And I come from Michigan. My favorite example to say that is like a type of anarchy is when we do a public ballot initiative where every person's vote counts the same. So your legislator's vote counts as one, and so does yours. So that's kind of anarchy because you're leveling a hierarchy.
Thank you.
Yep.
Perfect.
So they didn't like the anarchists. The jury of that kangaroo court was a bunch of the capitalists of the day who didn't like their businesses not receiving funds, and they did those atrocious things. Well, this was heard around the world, and there was already a lot of labor organizing throughout the world, but they chose, I believe it was in France that year that the international socialist unions met, and they declared this to be Labor Day. And then over U.S. history, they changed that day to be a different day. The AFL at the time, so the American Federation of Labor, kind of took over the space from the Knights of Labor, which was the big union before that. And they agreed with the president at the time, I can't remember the exact president at the time, that we need to move Labor Day to a different day. So it was a de-radicalization. It was to get rid of this tie that the owner class did atrocious things to the working class that wanted their demands met. Though they were fighting for an 8-hour workday, by the way, really wild and crazy stuff. And
radical.
Yeah,
getting rid of child labor and stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
awful.
8-hour day.
Yeah, I mean, why would you let that get in the way of profits? I know,
right?
It started in the U.S. the 8-hour day.
That's what he's saying. It started here. Emma Goldman, the Anarchist, the labor movement.
And then you got Eugene Debs and the Pullman strikes. That fought for those. But that's where Mayday is. Mayday is Labor Day. It always should have been Labor Day, and it should still be Labor Day. And I think we should all celebrate it like it's Labor Day. Just
it's my Labor Day.
Don't even tell your boss. If you can, just don't show up because it's Labor Day.
Yes.
Wait, why did I start talking about Labor Day? Oh, because we're going to celebrate Mayday. We're going Earth Day to Mayday. Here we go.
All right. So that's the history behind Mayday.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Brian Hayes is also chiming in, saying that we got to let the Democrats and Republicans know that we can outsmart them. That's true. Yeah. Okay. That's all. Go ahead, Dana.
Also with Mayday, there is a history of ecological as well. So it actually started with ecology, and then later it was also celebrated for workers' rights as well.
Yeah, it was a pagan holiday. Yeah, and then it became the labor holiday as well.
I didn't know that. I mean, I never knew those two things were connected.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'll plug somebody that I really appreciate. Brings up a lot of good points is a guy on YouTube called Thought Slime. Covered this really, really well. Opened my eyes. Just really opened my mind to, oh, wow, they literally moved the date so that it wouldn't be associated with when they did a kangaroo court and did atrocious things like murder people. So
right. Yeah.
But yeah, back to I keep throwing us way over. Back to Earth Day to May Day. This is new to me. I got to hear about this.
Yes. And so there's national events going on, and the National Green Party USA, encourage all the states and all the locals to go ahead and try to do a big push for Earth Day, the Green New Deal, climate action. Like this is a climate emergency. Like we have to face facts, and we have to hold the line that there's a time. There's a time to it. It's very time sensitive, so we cannot have gradual change at this time. So today we kicked it off with April 19th, the Green Party series. Now April 22nd on Earth Day, we are going live stream again at 7 p.m. with Chris Blackenhorn, who is from the Illinois Green Party. He is going to do a presentation on the Green New Deal. Yes. Many people do not realize that there's two Green New Deals. And
there are many.
There are many. Okay.
There are many.
That's insightful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But go ahead. But talk about the 2 years. There's AOC and.
So it's more of this, like taking the name and putting it on something else, taking it away from its.
Coming up with your own, like, well, I think the Green New Deal should look like this. You know, I mean, Chomsky and this other guy wrote a book that they got their own version of it. It's basically the same as what we think of, but I mean, you know, yeah. But yeah, go ahead. So the AOC has hers, and the other one is
the Greens.
Right.
Green New Deal.
Right.
So we have the Green New Deal. And Chris Blackenhorn will be on live stream April 22nd on Earth Day, talking about what the Greens' Green New Deal is.
What time is that on Thursday?
7 p.m. Central Time.
Oh, great. Okay, cool.
So that is how we're going to kick off this Earth Day week with that. That's going to be awesome. April 24th, we're going to bring it back to some organizing. Another Saturday of learning how to organize. Campaign tech organizing, live stream, 2 p.m. Grab your notebooks. We're going to go into some details about how we can use some of the software to be more efficient in our strategy and our organization.
Could you explain what exactly you mean by organizing? Do you mean like activists, protests? Are you talking about labor like union stuff, or all of that, some of that?
Well, for Chris's organizing, he's going to focus on some of the campaign tech items. The things that I've been focusing on is coalition building with Action Network and Basecamp that we have as the project management software. Okay. And so what we're able to do is for Action Network, any Illinois Green Party members can become an organizer and be able to, hey, this is in my area, I'm frustrated, I can't get an answer. Throw a petition, get it on social media, and start building that power in your area. There's no reason why we cannot be organizing at all.
Right. Well, of course not. Yeah.
Yeah,
we're a political party.
Well, I just meant like normal people too. Like,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
As a normal person, we get frustrated with things and we want to see things happen. And one of the things how to change the world is sometimes the change is small, it's incremental. And one of the ways we can do that is the petition process.
Right. So let me ask you this then, concerning organizing and like creating a greater set of activists out there. I know there's a big concern in politics about how politicians use fear to control people and manipulate people, right? Almost always illegitimately. They try to show you that your life is going to be absolute hell if you don't vote for them, and then if you do, they will save your life from utter peril. Okay. Well, it turns out that most of the time when they say things like that, in whatever context, it's a bunch of nonsense. However, we have a climate change issue that, again, we have our first deadline in 9 years, our second one in 29 years. But I was thinking about this the other day, since Saturday. My friend has a 2-year-old daughter. I'm like, gosh, how old is she going to be in 2050 when we're at like 500 parts per million? Oh, she's going to be 51. I'm like, oh my God. Anna, you have kids too, and I'm not trying to scare anybody or anything like that, but I mean, it is scary. So like this whole like taboo of like, politicians using, it's almost like they cried wolf too many times. They use fear as a tactic illegitimately, but now it's actually time to kind of use it, because it's not fear, it's urgency. But I mean, there's fear behind it. Like, hey, if we don't do something now, these really bad things are going to happen to your children and your grandchildren. You need to get involved, right? I'm not actually asking a question. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Yeah. And one of the items in the Illinois Green Party platform is looking at the next 7 generations. I cannot look at the next 7 generations right now. I'm focused on my kids. I'm trying to put in as much information and learning in my kids right now that we have a very time-sensitive issue called living on Earth. And
just that little
project for the day. Save the planet. But they look up greenhouse gases. They're very familiar with it. The second graders looking in a coral reef project. It's really interested in that. Yeah, the world is not what a lot of people think it is. And so I think some of that has to do with, this us versus them culture, this fear culture, this run-of-the-mill culture, the rat race to the bottom culture, where you're so busy between school, kids, work, life, cleaning. It's just like you don't have time to do the petition I am dealing with water issues. I'm not dealing, but if you're like, I'm dealing with water issues, but I don't have time for it because I'm dealing with water issues. So here at the Green Party, we're trying to make that easy, where you can set up your petition and people can at least start with that. Start with a petition, start with a letter campaign, start with organizing. So we are trying to make that as efficient and effective as possible. So grassroots democracy, community empowerment. These are the tools that we have available. So if you're interested, go to the website, www.ilgp.org, and we'll get you going. Sign up to be a member. If you don't want to be a member, sign up to be a volunteer. We'll get you in base camp into your issues that you want, or your local area. So we are ready to organize. We are organizing in Illinois statewide. We actually got our first Green mayor-elect in Galesburg. So that's
Yay.
very exciting. Yeah.
It's exciting, yes.
So
It is.
exciting.
Peter Schwartzman, we had him on last week. He was our first guest ever. Great guy. We're gonna have him on again when we talk about climate change and the science behind it, because he turns out he's a PhD in that very field. So that was kismet for sure. Hey, Calvin, how are you?
I did this last show too. I might have to look into the camera software. It boots me.
Oh, I thought you just like went to the bathroom or something.
Oh no! I'd at least like text or try to message you guys a heads up. Sorry.
You're fine. You came back, so that's all that matters.
Ah, you know the trick. Yeah, the refocusing.
The trick.
Yeah, but it's
good.
not working. I need like all new equipment.
Yeah. Every time he does that,
I didn't even move. Why is
Yeah, we both got camera issues right at one time. We're being attacked for sure. Somebody's messing with our software.
I don't even know what's happening.
All right, I'm gonna move on. I'm still talking about April 24th. We still have another big thing going on.
Yeah, workers towards Mayday.
Oh, we're not there yet. You gotta stay tuned. We're only on April 24th.
I'm so ready.
So April 24th, we do have an this is hosted by the College of Complexes, and it is called Eco-Socialism, an Introduction, Organizing to Replace Capitalism with the Solidarity Economy, 6 p.m., and that's hosted by the College of Complexes. And we have a special guest, and that special guest is Rich Whitney, who is the co-chair of the Illinois Green Party. So
nice.
That's going to be great. That's going to be very informative. Again, get out your notepad. Lots of notes, lots of learning going on. You want to make change. You know, it is a little bit of, there's a petition, but you have to know what is the nuts and bolts of the policy. Why is it important to have that policy? So I'm very much for informed policy, and making sure everybody knows what is the good policy. So moving on to April 28th, one of my favorites. And I know some other people love this one too. It's the Hot Topics sessions. So Hot Topics session is hosted by the DuPage County Green Party, and it's a lively discussion of, it's not a business meeting, there's no agenda. You come and you talk about the topic in a respectful manner. And so the topic, April 28th, is global warming. So people can come talk about global warming and their thoughts on that in a very lively discussion.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Do you have to dress goth?
Let's do a question, and then we're going to talk about Mayday, big actions, actions. So we do actually have more things coming down too from national. It's just crazy how much stuff going on. We have Tuesday, April 20th, a Global Greens, and the Earth Day Summit. That's going to be online. We have Sunday the 25th. Ooh, David, this one. Sunday, April 25th, climate in the military.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
Number one polluting entity in the world, the United States military. I'm in.
Yeah.
And that'll be 8 months till Christmas, which is nice too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, no, seriously, the number one polluting single entity of whatever is the United States military. You can add up 140 other countries together, and they would equal about that. It's unbelievable.
Oh, we're gonna have to get into that one.
Oh, we're definitely going to get into that one.
Yeah.
Right. And we should probably, put a letter campaign together to our senators on that as well. So it's huge.
The hardest thing to fight in the federal government is defunding the military or even just taking it down a couple notches, because you're looked at as like a treasoner and an enemy combatant or something, like black patriotism if you don't vote for this bloated budget to the military.
Right.
We could blow up the world 1 billion times over. I think we're good. I think we can stop it.
Agreed.
It's just unbelievable. But do you know that in between 1955 and the early 1950s and 1962, about 700,000 people died from cancer-related things concerning from fallout from nuclear weapons testing in the United States military? 700,000 people, Americans. Because so they put it underground. Awesome. So now it's infiltrating the soil and everything else. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Like, you say it out loud, you're like, what is happening? It's just craziness. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right. And that's why it's so important for these coalitions to build. That's why it's so important to hold the line. That's why it's so important to push for that 2030 date and not settle for that 2050 date. The 2050 date is put out there, and people just,
if we don't hit 2030, if we don't hit 2030, 2050 doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
9 years.
Good point, David. Yeah, because when I look at my children and I can see the next generation, but after that, how will our world look in 60
unbelievable
years?
Yeah, exactly. I'll be in 60 years. Unless I live to be 111, I'll be gone, which is unlikely. That I'll live to be that long. But I don't have any kids of my own. But I think about my friends and their children and stuff. And I've always been very fond of children. I always kind of wish if I could avoid the marriage thing, I would have had kids, no problem. But unfortunately, they go together. It just really breaks my heart. Like, seriously, I had an emotive response, visceral response the other day when I was just thinking, I'm like, I wonder how my friend Jason, I'm like, I don't know how Greta would be in 2050. I'm like, oh my God, she's going to be a measly 51 years old when things could very well be really, really bad. When we're into 500 plus parts per million and sea levels are rising and glaciers are melting and there are more forest fires and, there's all sorts of problems going on in the world. Agriculture is, just crumbling and, economies are breaking apart because of whatever. And, I see the thing as it goes progressively too, like in 2030, again, I've said this on other shows before, as a deadline, it means that we need to get rid of 7.6% of carbon emissions per year, each year until then. If we can do that, it takes about 45% of the total carbon emissions out of the air as far as output from our industries and so on, which gives us another 20 years. It gives us a tolerable level, a manageable level that we can deal with and continue on to net zero at 2050. So my point is that if in 2030 we don't hit that 45% mark, it's not like some people think it's like we wake up on January 1st, 2031 and it's over. Okay, that's not the case. What happens is there's a minefield analogy that somebody used that was really cool. Basically, what it means is that if we don't meet that point, we're walking into a minefield, and there's like a mine here, a mine there, and the further you go along in time, there are more mines in the field, in more density. Is that, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that. I thought that was a very good analogy, which is problematic enough. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to say oh, we're good if we don't hit it by 2030. No, it's bad if we don't hit it by 2030. And I don't know how to measure it. I'm reading a book right now on climate change by a physicist, and it's just the numbers and just everything else. I don't know, man. It's sad. It's really sad. It really upsets me. It's so daunting. And it's almost like you feel like, we're trying everything we can, especially as the Green Parties. The biggest reason why I became a Green Party member and left the Libertarian Party is not enough Libertarians were caring about the environment. Some were, you know, but they're all like, well, I'm like, well, what's gonna do it? I would have had candidates on. Oh, the market will take care of it. Okay, you know what? I mean, normally I would say I'd be okay with the market taking care of something. I'm gonna prefer free people taking care of their problems over a government, but not now, not with this. Especially with the military being the biggest polluter in the world. The government's gotta, the markets aren't gonna take down the military.
Right.
Politicians are gonna have to do that. So you have to work with the government to do it.
So are they talking about ComEd policing themselves?
Go ahead.
Were they talking about ComEd policing themselves?
That didn't come up specifically, but I just remember asking a couple. They were candidates at the time too. I'm like, okay, so like, you know, the environment is something you're going to have to contend with. It's just too big of an issue. Whether you believe in climate change or not, you're going to have to address the issue. And almost all of them said that the markets would take care of it. I'm like, okay, sure. I mean, you know, well, what do you mean by that? Well, you know, nobody had an answer. Oh, you know, just, well, they believe, you know. And again, normally I would believe in people taking care of their own problems, but this is just a totally different thing, totally different monster entirely. I don't know. It freaks me out. Hey, Molly used to be a Libertarian Party member. You and me, Molly, the only two people in the Green Party that used to be Libertarians. All right.
There are things that are not an elastic market, which if somebody's proposing like a type of socialism where it's a mixed economy and you know, some things are taken off of the market, like say healthcare. Most countries have taken that off the market. It's viewed as inelastic. When you need healthcare, you need it. There's no like, oh, let me bargain bin and like
it's not a commodity.
Right. But when it comes to like the consequences of climate change, like that's to me, it's even an order of magnitude beyond inelastic. At that point, it is a like earth-shattering consequence. Like it's literally one of those things that's been building for decades, and then even if the market does start to respond, that's far too late. It's almost too late right now. Even if the market were to start like, you know, hammering away at it and sucking out carbon or somehow, like we need something where it's not profit driven. It is for future generations driven. It's empathy for fellow man driven. And it needs to take action sooner rather than later.
Right, like a people's over profits measure. I think I was thinking about the people in Texas with the electricity and how the market will take care of itself. No, the market did not take the market took care of themselves, but the market did not take care of the people.
Yeah, I mean, some people, I don't know all the details of what happened there. I mean, besides I know that the power was shut off and Ted Cruz went to Cancun, but I heard some of the criticism was that it was that industry was privatized and that was part of the problem. Do you know anything about that, either of you or both of you?
I know a little bit about that. Yeah, it was privatized, and then it was a the mechanism wasn't you pay the same amount each month. It's you pay like in accordance with demand at the time.
Variable.
Yeah, which made the bills for just basic electricity, if you were just running regular things like your fridge and your lights, that would cost you. It was like 1,000% more that month, or even more ridiculous than that. I think people were looking at bills with levels of digits they weren't even expecting. Like, this is a 7-digit bill that I just received, or this is a just ridiculous amount because of the way those mechanisms worked in the privatized sector. And many people have fought it, but I think I need to revisit it to say any more specifics. But they were looking at $1 million bills at times. It was wild.
That's insane, because it was based on demand. What does that mean?
It's a quote unquote responsive system. So by using it when it was in such low quantity and at such high demand, because it was winter in Texas, like a real winter for the Texans, what they're not used to,
right.
And they needed to heat their places, and some people had electric heat. It was a hugely ballooned cost getting those systems up and going again, and the company used that policy of theirs to just take huge bills, and people can't pay them. There's just no way they could approach paying a 6-7 digit bill. So
that's ridiculous. No,
yeah.
Of course they can't, and even if they could, they shouldn't. I mean, it's just kind of stupid.
Right.
It's really offensive. Sorry, we only got like 5 minutes left, Anna. If you wanted to quickly get us to Mayday.
I want to make sure I'm not too sensationalist. Not every bill was $1 million, but there were a couple that were up in that range, and that's what was scary. A lot of people were dealing with like $1,000 bills when they're used to getting 30s.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, with that, we can do more research on that too. But I when I was scanning the headlines and reading some articles, there's a few private electricity companies. They were warned that the winter was coming, and they didn't really take that into serious consideration. Really, really cold in Texas. I think they got to 0 or below 0 for like 4 days. They didn't have heat. People did die because of that, and people were left with. I heard like bills were 16,000 easy, and it was, it's not good that the electricity companies just ignored what was going on, and then didn't really. I don't know if there is any responsibility that was taken. I didn't hear any.
I haven't heard any.
Doesn't mean that anything wasn't happening, but I did just talk from somebody from Texas a couple weeks ago, and yeah, they're looking at self-sufficiency, and so we're going to try to do what we can to help them out there. Just form that community group, dive in, because we have problems to solve. Electricity.
Yeah, a lot of awesome mutual aid groups in Texas working. So let's keep sharing those mutual aid groups and coalition with them as much as we can.
Yeah, people powered. Yeah. Okay. So are we ready to talk about May 1st?
You got 3 minutes to get us to Mayday.
Okay. Mayday. The Illinois Greens actually are doing a monthly action, the first Saturdays, of the month from noon to 1. And so the first one that we are doing is May, and that's May 1st. And so our members and our chapters are encouraged to have local actions, and it's a statewide effort to be out in your post from noon to 1 on the first Saturdays of the month. And this first Saturday coming up is Mayday. And so DuPage, we already have our post listed up there, and Chicago, we're working on getting your post listed up there. Lake County, let's go. Let's show that we are here, that we are going to hold the line. We represent workers' rights. We represent climate action now. These are 2 Mayday items, and so I'm very excited to socially distance and have some safe organizing out there.
Very cool. Very awesome. All right. Calvin, any last words for tonight?
I mean, I love what I'm hearing. Earth Day to Mayday. I think this is awesome. Oh, I wanted to ask if people want to follow along and they haven't seen this before, where should they go to, Anna? How do they check this?
Facebook, YouTube, Twitter.
All right.
We're there.
Reality Radio.
And they just type in Illinois Green Party.
Yeah.
On Facebook. Yeah. YouTube. I haven't searched us on YouTube, but.
All right. Very cool.
We are there.
All right, cool. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening and watching us tonight. Sorry about the technical difficulties earlier, but we're going to have Allan back on because we got a lot more questions for him. Thanks to Molly and Brian for tuning in, commenting here on the side. Anna, thank you so much for all that information. And Calvin, of course, always a pleasure to have you as my co-host.
Always a pleasure.
This is David Rich. I am the host here. This is the Green Party series every Monday, 8 to 9 p.m. Central Time. Tune in. We're going to have a lot of interesting guests, a lot of interesting talks about a lot of interesting things. Till next time, be good, be green.
Take care.
Bye.